Hello, everyone. Welcome to our workshop today on omni-channel access. We're going to be talking about some of the different ways that you can connect into applications using Nitro, whether that's through one of our out-of-the-box applications or applications you build on your own. There are multiple ways you can connect into Nitro. So we're just going to give another minute or so for folks to trickle in. Looks like a couple more coming on. Beyond that, they'll just have to listen to the recording. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and get started then. My name is James Restivo from Croquet Software. You guys have been on these before, so you kind of know the drill. For anyone who's new, if you look in your GoToWebinar panel, you'll see that there is a questions box. So feel free to pop a question and or comment in there at any point in time. Happy to answer anything on the fly as we go through it, or at the end, we'll see where it makes sense, and we'll get your questions answered. But yeah, again, we're going to be talking about omnichannel access in Nitro. And again, my name is James Restivo from Croquet. So we'll go ahead and get started. And you'll see on here, we got a couple of icons here. And we're going to talk about these different ways that you can connect in and manage and connect in with users using Nitro. So you got these different ways to communicate. You got email, you've got texting, talk about what that means. We've got portal. Some kind of portal site if you want to use that. And then there's the Teams interface, of course, and the bot, which we talk about quite a lot. But it is a really neat and great way to communicate with end users, or even have them have self-serve access. We'll show some demonstrations of that, and all these things as we go through it. So looks like we got last few folks trickling in, so that's great. We'll just go ahead and get moving into the rest of the content here. Email. So email is one of the core ways that people tend to still communicate. And as much as we love to move away from email, as much as we'd love to put it to bed and have other ways of interacting with our users and with systems, it is still the primary, at least from what I've seen, the primary way users communicate, at least externally to other maybe different teams that they're not a part of, or even outside of the organization to other external organizations. Email is really very much still a part of day-to-day life in the business world. And so we've have ways, and we've been working on ways for many years with our applications to manage how emails are handled. And a couple really simple ways you have when you're using Nitro out of the box is you have email that can be brought into the system and create an item in a SharePoint list. I'll show you that in the email sync tool in just a minute. You also have, so you can create that SharePoint list item. You have ways you can communicate out from SharePoint using an email manager. So there's an email manager function on the in Nitro as well that you can connect into a list and send out from the list. So let me show you those two things as out of the box Nitro elements. The first part you'll see here, this is our email and sync tool. This is part of the Nitro apps. If you go to the NITRO Studio page, you'll be able to get to this email and text sync area to configure it. And so you'll see there's a email sync settings. I'll just walk through the settings. A lot of you are probably familiar with this stuff already, but just to kind of recap real quick, you have your list where you're going to send the information. Where do you want to put the emails that are coming in? And then of course you have to have a connection to a mailbox. So we'll get down to that. But in the meantime, once you select your list, you can select where those fields from the email are going to go to. We have three core fields that we're pulling from the email that's coming into the system: the from line, which is who it's coming from, of course, the subject, and the body. So those three elements we want to map into an item in SharePoint, and then we can maybe run some workflows or take some action on that after the fact once it comes in. And if you come down a little further, you'll see that we have some parsing options, which are part of what we can do with the out-of-the-box applications that we offer, the IT help desk and the work order type tools. And then we also have the connection over to the mailbox. So it's really simple, straightforward. You can do a user password connection. So it does have to be, I think it'd be a shared account if you use the Graph API access, but basically we just need a mailbox to read that's accepting these emails, and then anything that hits that mailbox will bring into SharePoint. Now, of course, this is coming at it from the Office 365 world and SharePoint Online. This is not there for on-prem because in on-premises, there is an incoming email setting that you can configure on your SharePoint server. And there's some, complications here. It's been a while since I've worked in it, but I know it can be a little tricky to set up with the SMTP service and whatnot, or that's more for the outgoing. But there's some tricks to getting that set up properly. But once you do, you'll see when you go to a list settings page, you'll have a way to configure a email address for that list. So it's using the simple mail transfer protocol on the SharePoint server, not the mailbox. So in Office 365, since we don't have that SMTP service, we have a way to connect into a mailbox. So once you make that connection, whether it's through the incoming email settings on the SharePoint server or through a mailbox here, those items will get created in the SharePoint list. So that gives your users a way to communicate or report issues. Essentially, it's mainly for reporting issues, reporting maybe requests and things like that. They can submit into the system. This can be used not just for users who are sending in an email, just to send it in. It could also be used as part of a web form. You could have a web form that submits to an email address, and I know we've done that with some of the web forms we use internally. So I know it's definitely out there where you can have a form outside of SharePoint. Doesn't have to be part of SharePoint. It's all a part of the external to that. But ultimately, it's sending an email into Office 365, going into that Exchange mailbox, and that Exchange mailbox is bringing that into the SharePoint list. So we can go through, there's a bunch of different configurations here. I won't go through them in all great detail. But yeah, it's got a lot of, got some options here for getting the information into SharePoint. So on the other side of the coin, we got the incoming piece of it, but we also want to talk about the outgoing piece of it. So that's also there in NITRO out of the box, where you have an email manager. This is another tool we have in the NITRO tool set. Again, we use it really heavily with our out of the box applications like IT Help Desk and work orders, but you could use it in a non, application site, just a general NITRO site also. And you'll see the configurations up here, who's it going to go to, who's it going to come from. And you see that there's multiple options here. That's just going to be a drop down of multiple options in the from address. I'll show you that in just a minute. And then you have a template. You can have some kind of template that goes out to those users if you want to have some basic template information. And the template, really, the nice thing about it, if most of you should be familiar with our mail templates, they'll pull in information from the list that you're working from. So in this case here, we're working from a list called tickets, and the default template is going to have data from that tickets list and send it into that email and when it gets sent out from the system. So how does it get sent out from the system in Office 365? Well, it's either going to use SendGrid, which is a outside service, or you can use an internal mailbox. I didn't get that set up to show you on this webinar today how that all gets up. So if you're interested in, if you don't have it set up already, to go from an internal mailbox on your Office 365 account, we can work together to get that set up, maybe on a separate one-on-one kind of call. But that's what it's using. So on-prem, of course, it's going to use the simple mail transfer protocol, and it's going to be kind of the same idea, but you're going to be using that SMTP service to send it out from the SharePoint server. But either way, it gives you that two-way communication. You've got your emails coming in, they create an item in SharePoint, and then you can go to that item in SharePoint. So we have the tickets list. I opened up a test ticket over here, and we hit the send email button. Now that's going to pop open your send email screen, and it's going to pull in the from addresses that you had configured and the two addresses which you can manage that, and also the control what is going on into the body there for the for that. So you can see you got all the kind of a simplified mail interface. We're not trying to recreate everything that you can do in Outlook, but it's just really a simple way to send an email out from the system once you get an email into the system. So that's kind of the two sides of the coin when you're emailing, using email to connect into SharePoint. So it gives you a way, if that's your primary communication with users, that's still, we fully support that. But we also have some other ways that we can connect connect to users. So we have this whole texting service. So there's this texting with Twilio. It's a third-party service. You'll have to set up an account with Twilio. It's not that hard, and it's not that expensive either. And what that does for you is allows users, if they want to text into the system, they can. but also allows you to send text out from the system, which might be more relevant in certain use cases where if you want to send out a notification to a group of users, they can get that text and they can, they can see it. So, again, like the email, it goes both ways from texting coming into the system and texting going out from the system. And a lot of that's set up in the same arena as the email sync. So you have the SMTP SMS text sync settings here. Same idea as the incoming settings. Again, we won't go through it in great detail, but you'll see you have to have a Twilio connection. We can set that, you get that set up, and then you can send out from, or send in from a text into your SharePoint site to create an item in a list. So it gives another avenue, another channel for users to connect into the system. So those are all well and good, and there is an outgoing element of this as well in the workflows and custom actions. There's a send an SMS text feature. If you're interested in hearing more about that, let me know. We'll go into it. But I just get the sense from working with customers and whatnot, the texting piece of it isn't really that important. It's just something we had, and there was other people offering it, so we put it in there, but I don't know how many people are actually using it. So if you are using it, let me know. I'd be really interested to know if you're using texting in any way in our system. It's kind of a neat add-on, but I don't know how many people are actually using it. So we won't spend a lot of time on that one. The next thing I want to talk about with Omni Channel Support, another channel option for users to connect in and communicate, is a portal. So this gets a little more robust, a little more interactive with your users. So instead of just them sending an email and waiting for an email back, or sending a text and waiting for a text back, this gives a better kind of a more interactive interface for working with users in various ways. And it's a highly configurable option. Using the NITRO web parts, you can do different things with it, have different web parts on there, show them different elements from the backend site. You can use our portal style branding or use standard SharePoint modern UI branding. And then also can be using security settings to drive access. But because it's its own site, you could also do some kind of management through permissions in SharePoint itself. But ultimately, the portal, and you guys, and a lot of you probably have seen it, but I'll pop it open here. Looks like this out of the box. All right, so it's kind of simplified interface, and it really just gives the user a few ways to interact with the system. You don't want to give them too much. Maybe give as much or as little as you want, really, with the configurability of this site. So, if you ever want to modify it, of course, you get this. If you're, hiding some of the elements with branding, you can do the CCS mode = 1 option. Oops, not A1. Actually, that seemed to work anyway. No, it didn't. Okay, there we go, 1. And that's going to bring open the editing option, so you can go and edit and add web parts. You can remove web parts. You can, kind of move around and change around this page as much or as little as you like for different elements. And of course, each one of these things, if this is being NITRO web part, you can go and configure that link tiles and change up the tiles there. You can change up where this notices lives. There's a number of things you can do with it. If you are interested in, I don't know if anyone here is, but if you are interested in, let's say you have the portal and you want to get rid of the branding that we offer, which is fine, you can just use the standard SharePoint branding. The way you do that, I'll show you kind of what it looks like, is to come over to the NITRO site settings under portal administration, and we can remove settings. So what that's going to do is going to remove it's going to get rid of that top level, the branding with the menu items, but you'll see you do kind of lose the menu items that we had at the top. We'll just have to show them in a different way, but it gets rid of that stuff. And then we can also take it a step further and get into the branding, which now it's going to be hard to get to, but so you want to be a little careful, maybe get rid of the branding first and then get rid of the NITRO site settings. But that site NITRO site settings app, which can be added. So again, if you wanted to add it here, I'll show you what that looks like. If we go to =1. If you edit this page, so you just go to a blank page and add this this site settings app. Let me see. There, I'll just do it here. I'll show you that it's one of the options in the modern UI web parts. site settings Croquet. So that's that web part where you have the menu links at the top and the it's overlaying that header. So we could add that and apply the branding, and that would then get it back to that portal interface. But you could also, kind of mess around with it, make it more of a modern UI. But anyway, the point is you have a lot of configurability here to create a NITRO portal that is, again, simplified interface for users to come in and interact with the system and do what they need to do. So another option, and talked about using security settings. So another option for users to interact with NITRO and with SharePoint is Teams, of course. So Teams is another area, probably second to email, maybe even slightly surpassing email as a way of communicating, especially within organizations. You want to have Teams channels and Teams chats, and I know a lot of people are probably using the chat feature. I know we use it pretty heavily here internally. But you have your chat support where you basically have someone ping a technician or whoever for a request. You might want to control that a little bit and maybe have an IT team that they can interact with, or there's different ways to kind of manage that. But essentially, Teams gives you a way for users to another way for users to send in requests or send in support and also get communication back to them. So that's what this is all about. It's about how can they communicate with us? How can we communicate with them as end users? And so this gives you another option there. And then one thing I want to show you is that with that portal, the portal interface, you can actually embed that in Teams. So it's sort of a little combination of the portal option and this Teams option where you can put them together. And one of the benefits is that you can kind of lay it out in your Teams team. So here I have some team that I put together for an IT help desk team. Created a general tab here where users can come and interact with it. So if they want to create a ticket through here, you can see that they can do that right through the Teams interface. So it's kind of just basically putting the functionality of the SharePoint portal into a Teams tab. So it just gives another arena, another place for people to communicate and work with the system. So again, we can take each of those pages. So we took the portal homepage, put it into a tab here at the top in this general channel. You can kind of click across the top, almost like a web page sort of interaction with the system. And then again, you can put whatever pages you want, show as many as you want. And then on the back end, you can configure these as I showed you, where you can do the CCS mode =1, or if you're not using that branding, you can just edit the page and make your adjustments as needed. But you can see it's got all those elements of the portal that we've know and love. We put it into Teams itself, so they can interact with it as if it were as if they're interacting with the website. Again, just another way that people can get into the same system to interact with that same backend system. And one point I probably didn't make clear enough at the beginning is that we're talking about different ways to interact with the same backend site that is intaking these requests or intaking these tickets. So everything we've talked about at this point, whether it's email or texting or this portal or this Teams portal, it's all going back to the same system. So you can have all of these options available for your users, not just one or two. You can use all these options, and really that way your users don't have to go to one specific portal or one specific way to submit tickets. You can give them a range of options to do it. And so that's what we're talking about here. So it just gives them another option for users if they're comfortable with Teams going to the channel, they can submit things this way. Of course, there's always the tried and true chat option where they can go and chat with someone and say, hey, Pavan, there's an issue here. Hey, Pavan, I need help. Just chat like that. That's another option as well, but not exactly the best way to do it if you're implementing like a request system or whatever it is. It can be it kind of spirals out of control from a governance perspective. You probably want to use one of the other methods that we've talked about so far, but it is an option, especially if you're already kind of in the Teams interface. You can connect with someone and do a screen share very quickly where, coming at it from the other perspective, the technician can be here and say, hey, I got your ticket. Let's set up a quick call to see what's going on. Something like that. So you can kind of do it from both perspectives there on Teams. Of course, you're probably all familiar with that. So it's nice, nice another option for interacting with your end users. And then ultimately, the final kind of way is still in Teams in a sense, but it is kind of different way to do it is the bot. So we have this NITRO bot where you can kind of take the human element out of it a little bit and kind of give your end users, more kind of, push them to be a little more self-service and a little more get the information that they are looking for more without having to interact with someone directly. But yeah, it does allow for real-time interaction with people with the bot service. It uses natural language processing to help search knowledge base articles when it's connected to our IT help desk. And you can create tickets directly from that bot conversation. So if you come back over here to Teams, you see we've got our bot kind of services already going over here. And I think someone was kind of playing around with it already today, but you'll see that probably in a demo. You can see that we've got some commands that we can put in there. So if I just go in here and hit commands, I should pull up the commands that I can use with the bot. So again, you can tie this to one site, you can tie this to multiple sites. It's kind of up to you how you want to do that. And then once you've got it set up, usually maybe on one site or whatever, we can do something like leave requests, kind of a simple one that comes in a lot. How do users submit a leave? Well, they can do it through the bot. They can come in, hit that new leave request link right here, and then it's going to pull up a leave request form. So now they don't have to go and hunt and search for that particular site or that particular portal or wherever it is you put it. It's in the bot. It's easy to access. Everyone has access to that. It's another really compelling way for users to come in and interact with the system, submit requests like this, and they just go through and fill out their details, and they're off and running with the submittal. And then we talked a lot about bots in previous workshops, so I'm not going to belabor it too much, but just kind of show you some of the functionality that we have in here. There's options for submitting a ticket, searching a knowledge base. Let's see if this has any commands. Maybe there's some issues with the commands right now. But if I just type in help, my printer is broken, by default, it can have a kind of this default option to go search the knowledge base. And you'll see that this is going to come up with a couple different knowledge base articles that are there in the in the site that we're searching. So we can target it to a site to search the knowledge base, and then it can pull back from that knowledge base what articles are relevant. Again, like I said, it's using that natural language processing to pull out what are the key words, what are the key concepts that are in what the text that the person sent in, and then matching that up with relevant articles and using a search on that. So without getting too much into the details, that's kind of how it works. You can pretty much type whatever you want in there, and it's going to use that to search the knowledge base. Now, of course, this also means you need to have a robust knowledge base on the back end with lots of relevant articles, which is, takes some time to set up, but that is a great way for users to interact with the system and kind of keep it even out before it gets to the ticket or request phase. They might be able to go and get what they need without having to interact with someone. So kind of another level of that omni-channel support where they can come in and interact with this bot and get the information they need. So again, communication back, once they create that ticket, that communication back can be an email, like an email says, hey, we got your ticket, and maybe a follow up like, hey, we need more information. So you could still use email for that stuff. But again, like I said, none of these options preclude the other options. As I was saying, all of these options are available for users to connect into NITRO, connect into an IT help desk site, or whatever it is, or work order site, and get the help that they need. So it really is about options. It's about the giving the users the power to do what they need to do with it. But yeah, that's really about it. That's what I wanted to cover with those omni-channel options. Again, recap: we got the email options, we got the texting options, we've got the portal options, the Teams options, whether they directly interact with the portal site through Teams or whether they connect to someone directly through Teams. And then the NITRO bot option, which would be in the Teams interface, but still they could interact with that and get the information they're looking for. So with that, I'm going to look over onto the questions box, and it looks like we do have a question about doing a webinar on the email header and body parsing, which we saw in the email sync tool. Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's a great idea. Thank you for the suggestion. We'll set up a workshop on that to talk about that email and text body parsing. The email header parsing, just so everyone's aware, is a relatively new release we've had in NITRO. That wasn't there probably as early, probably about within the last month or so. I think we released that with the header parsing, but the body parsing has been there for a while. But yeah, absolutely, we'll have a webinar or workshop to talk about that aspect of it. And so if there's anything here you want to talk about in more detail with us at any time, feel free to let us know. We're happy to engage and have one-on-one conversations. If there's anything you're finding useful or any other methods that we didn't cover here that you'd be interested in learning, like how can we get people to interact with the system this way or that way, we're happy to hear it. And whatever's going to make it easier for your users to come in and get the support and the help they need. We want to be able to provide that kind of support and help to you guys as well, our customers. So, all right, with that, I think that we'll go ahead and end it. I appreciate everyone coming on today to talk about, to listen to about these different options that you have, and we'll look forward to talking to you and hearing from you soon. So, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.